It's me. So I got a request to make this video in the comments. It's this one right here from Wizard of AI Land. Thanks for leaving a comment, by the way. They requested a video on the bassline for I Feel Love and says they've been working on it for 3 weeks but can't get it just right. Well, Wizard of AI Land, getting it to match up one-to-one with the track might be a needle in the haystack situation. Let me explain. The original bassline was created by Giorgio Moroder and Pete Bellet using a Moog modular synth that was on loan from another composer. Every nuance and subtlety in that piece of equipment and the subsequent processing, which I'm going to show you, led to the character and tone that's in the original. It's also worth noting that a good deal of the sound in the original is in the percussion that is playing a 16th note pattern over top of the bassline. So let's not focus on getting it one-to-one, although some of the examples I'm going to show you get decently close. What we can do, however, is learn the synthesis techniques and post-processing techniques used to create this dance floor classic.
Excuses.
Also, at the end, I'll show you how different the timbre can sound with examples of the riff using other synths. Let's get to it. First, we'll need a synth. I'm going to use Thor for this one. Let's get the notes down. Let's set our grid to 8th notes. The notes are C, C, G, and A sharp. We'll let that loop while we dial in this patch. Let's lower the filter and raise the envelope amount. We'll lower the decay time on the filter envelope so we get a pluckier shape. Adjust the filter a little. We'll lower the decay on the amp envelope as well. We're looking for a super short sound. Now we'll add a second oscillator and make sure it's an octave above the first. We'll set it to a pulse wave and use the pulse width knob here to change the timbre of the sound. Open up the filter a bit, change the filter to type 1 and add some resonance. Little faster decay on the amp envelope. Let's add some drive to the filter. And now we get to the sauce of the sound. We'll make a quick effects loop using 2 Spider Audio merger splitters. Now normally I'd run the original signal straight through like this so that I could use copies of the original signal from the send side to send to effects. This time though, I'm going to run the original signal through a gain first so that I can control its pan position. I'll make a copy of that gain tool as one is for the left ear and one is for the right ear. This one will go through a delay. I'm going to use Reason's most simple delay to keep this easy to follow, plus that's all you need anyway. We'll patch a copy of this signal through the other gain, through the delay, and back up through the return. We're setting the delay to do 1 tap a 16th note behind with no feedback. Now we can pan these against each other. Let's tweak the filter settings here. Let's mess with the pulse width a bit. Let's get the rest of the notes down. So this pattern starts on a C, and it goes for 4 bars. On bar 5 and 6, transpose the pattern up to the D sharp, bar 7 goes up to the F, and bar 8 goes up to the G. I programmed some drums here using the Jackbox L1M drum machine. It's a rack extension emulation of the famous Linn drum, but I'm using one of the other included drum kits. And voila! examples using other synths. I was just having a bit of fun and wanted to see how different things would sound. I also added a couple layers to the drums. These really short noise blasts coming out of the ES10. Love this synth. They're landing on every 16th note, but if I bypass the processing, you can hear that the MIDI is actually 8th notes, and I'm using the same trick with the delay as the bassline. It's getting beefed up by this overdrive distortion I'm mixing in parallel using these Spider audios. Here it is dry. And this little snare, kind of like in the original, also using an ES10. It's the noise oscillator with a resonant filter sweep via the envelope. It has distortion and reverb on it. Here's what it sounds like dry. Okay, first up, let's listen to a version similar to the one we just made with Thor, only this time with more effects. A sidechain deducted against the kick, and this Sadist distortion unit by Experimental Sounds. Another great rack extension by them that I use a lot. I have it running in parallel using these Spider audio merger splitters. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a video on this send-return method of processing. Anyway, the Sadist is going out to its own delay setup and is almost acting as a distorted reverb or slapback. Let's take a listen. I'll exaggerate the distortion so you can hear it. Here it is without it. I'm using it pretty subtly in this example. Next up, we have a version using Subtractor. Similar setup, but this time with a scream on the overdrive setting in parallel. Let's take a listen. Here it is without the distortion. Here's a version using two ES10s and a Sadist. If you haven't checked out the Experimental Sound Studio stuff, do yourself a favor. Here it is without distortion. Here's a version using Serum. I had some fun with this one, and there's some pulse width modulation in time with the amp envelope. I'm using the inbuilt distortion. Here it is without the distortion. So there you have it. Hopefully you learned something. Thanks for watching. If you use Reason, let me know if you'd like to see a video on that send return setup I was using throughout the video. It's super helpful. See you soon.